Before we get into the episode, I am thrilled to announce that the EntreMD Business School is open for enrollment. The EntreMD Business School is the only school of its kind for physicians who want to build 6, 7, and multiple 7-figure businesses. Over the last 2 years, we have had hundreds of doctors go through the school with unbelievable results. Some of them run brands, some of them run private practices, some of them are coaches, some have other kinds of service-based businesses or product-based businesses. And we've had people come in and cross the 6-figure milestone, cross the 7-figure milestone, cross the multiple 7-figure milestone. You will be in a place where you'll get the coaching, the community, the accountability that you need to thrive as an entrepreneur, especially in the times that we're in. So maybe you've been following me for a while. Maybe you've been getting so much out of the EntreMD podcast and you've been wondering, how can I work with Dr. Una and the community more? Well, this is your chance. Come join us in the EntreMD Business School. It is application only. So go to entremd.com/business to turn in your application. I cannot tell you how many doctors have made statements like this. I recovered my investment in the first week. I recovered my investment in my bank account in the first 90 days. This is the best investment I've made in myself ever. I want you to have that kind of story, not just a story of building a great business that serves a lot and earns a lot, but having a business that gives you the freedom to live life on your terms. So don't wait any longer. entremd.com/business. And now for the episode. Hi, docs. Welcome to the EntreMD podcast, where it's all about helping amazing physicians just like you embrace entrepreneurship so you can have the freedom to live life and practice medicine on your terms. I'm your host, Dr. Una. Well, hello, my friend. Welcome back to another episode of the EntreMD podcast. As always, I am so grateful that you listen to this podcast, and I'm grateful that you're committed to your success as a physician entrepreneur. Like, so grateful. Okay. So today, I want us to do something that's really fascinating. When you look at the data, it talks about 80% of businesses going out of business in the first 5 years. And for some people, this makes them think, you know what, everybody's right. I cannot be an entrepreneur. I cannot lead a successful business. But the truth of the matter is, when you look at the number of people who get into medical school, the overall acceptance rate is about 7%. So what that means is 93% of people who try to become doctors, who start that process, don't. Okay. And so if you think about it, you've overcome greater odds. This did not stop you from going to medical school. This did not stop you from being a doctor. So what if, as physician entrepreneurs, if it is on your heart and you're like, I really want to start a business, I want to build out my brand, I want to take control of my financial future, how about you decide, you know what? The odds were worse for med school and I overcame those. And why don't I just do it again? Like, the odds for this are even better. Okay. And so on this podcast episode, I'm going to be talking about why 80% of businesses fail in the first 5 years. But the thing is, I don't want you to listen to it as evidence to decide not to become an entrepreneur. I want you to see what some of the roadblocks are, and you can decide, okay, I know about that. I'm going to overcome that, right? Okay, so let's get into this. And I will say, this is based on my observation after coaching hundreds and hundreds of, physician entrepreneurs and even entrepreneurs outside of the physician space. This is based on my own experience, having built multiple very successful businesses. And so this is my opinion. Okay. So this is my opinion. And I was going to say, take it, you can choose not to listen to it, but I really hope you listen. Okay. All right. So let's talk about it. I want to give you 5 things. Okay. So 5 reasons why they fail. So the first one, and I'm really going to be speaking to you as a physician, like this is the thing. These are the things I've observed in the physician community. The first one is the thought that hard work is not required. Hard work is not required. I cannot tell you how many people I've spoken to. They are entrepreneurs and they're just like, I don't get why it has to be hard. And I mean, there is work required. There is hard work required. That does not mean that you don't have a life. That does not mean that you now have a hard life. But one of the worst things you can do as an entrepreneur is stay in resistance, right? Like I don't get why this is hard. This shouldn't be hard and all of that, because it will require hard work. And I think the bigger pain is being in the frustration of the fact that it requires hard work, right? Like it's kind of like being in medical school and you're upset that you have to study, right? Or you being in labor and delivery and being upset you have to push out the baby. Like once you come to terms with the fact that this is hard work, it actually becomes easy. Because I've been thinking about this, right? I'm like, entrepreneurship is hard work, but I don't feel I'm having a hard time. You know what I mean? Like I'm enjoying my life as an entrepreneur. I'm enjoying being an entrepreneur. There's hard work, there are disappointments and things that will discourage you, all of those things. But overall, I am enjoying the journey. And so I started thinking, like, what is it? It doesn't have to be hard, but it requires hard work, right? Like once you embrace that and you're like, okay, it requires hard work. This is what is required. I'm going to do it. The second you accept it, everything becomes easier. It's really, really, really hard when you're fighting the fact that hard work is required. Okay. So hard work is required. And I'm not going to list all of them, but I want you to think about it. Okay. When you start marketing, right? There is hard work around that. You're going to put yourself out there relentlessly until enough of your ideal clients can find you for your business to serve a lot and earn a lot, right? You're going to sell. You're going to tell people, come work with me. You're going to give them the opportunity to work with you. That can be work. You're going to build a service or a product that is going to give people really great results. That requires work. It's going to require work. Even the transformation you will have to experience as an entrepreneur, making that transition from physician to physician entrepreneur, or even from entrepreneur running a 6-figure business to entrepreneur running multiple 6, 7, multiple 7, 8. Each one of those stages will require work. So if you are of the thought process that this should not be hard work, I should not need to work this hard, I have paid my dues as a physician and all of that, it will cause you so much pain and so much suffering. And it'll put you in a position where you won't do the work. And because of that, your business will not work. So I'm inviting you to just recognize it is hard work to build a successful business. And I'm willing to do the work. The second you get there, everything becomes easier. You're still going to do the hard work, but you feel so much better about it because you're no longer fighting reality. Okay. So that's number one. Number two is not realizing that there's an algorithm. Okay. There is an algorithm for business success. There are frameworks. There are blueprints. There's a strategy that it doesn't matter what time we're in. It is a classic strategy. So it's not a tactic, right? And I'll give examples of this. It's not a tactic. Some things come and go. So there was a time MySpace was a thing, right? There was a time Facebook was all there was. There was a time, now there's a time where TikTok seems to be on fire. But all of these things, they come and go, right? They come and go. But there is an overarching strategy. So let me give you an example. At the end of the day, a business is an entity that serves a client in a profitable way, right? Like provides services, products, all that stuff to a client in a profitable way. And so when you look at strategy, there's a strategy of how do I attract people who don't know about me? How do I get them to know, like, and trust me? And how do I get them to say yes to working with me? How do I serve them in such a way that they keep coming back and they keep telling other people about me? This right here is a strategy that never goes away. It never goes away. Now you may decide, well, as far as reaching people, like attracting, you may say, I want to use a tactic like organic marketing. I want to use a tactic like paid ads. For organic marketing, I want to do it primarily on social media or primarily on my blog or primarily through my email or some combination of all of those. I want to be on Facebook. No, I want to be on Instagram. No, I want to be on TikTok. See, all of those are tactics. Those you can do based on your preference. But when it comes to the strategy, it's not about your preference. That is just what needs to be done. And so I would have people who say, I'm just not comfortable putting myself out there. That's not a decision you get to make as an entrepreneur because it is a requirement. It is a requirement that your business is out there. It is a requirement that you nurture them so they know, like, and trust you. It is a requirement that you have a call to action so they say yes, that you sell. It is a requirement that you serve them in such a way that they come back and they ask people to, tell other people to come work with you. You don't get to have a preference. Okay, you don't get to have a preference. That's like saying, CPR, I'm just not about chest compressions. I'm all into, maintaining the airway. You don't get to choose. Do you see what I'm saying? So when it comes to having a preference, you can choose tactics. You don't get to choose overarching strategy. That has always been, it will always be. Okay, so when we pick and choose a strategy, then we're setting ourselves up to build businesses that will not work. Okay, so that's the second thing that I've noticed, not realizing that there's an algorithm, not realizing that there's a strategy. Yeah, many people decided, I'm just not going to put myself out there. I'm not going to sell. If I build it and it's really good, they will come. You don't get to choose. You don't get to choose. Like, it is what it is. That's the nature of the beast. It comes with entrepreneurship, right? And so, but I can't tell you how many people I've seen do that, and it just destroys business. You don't get to pick. You can pick the tactic. You cannot pick the strategy. The strategy is a strategy. Now, somebody will be listening to this and say, yeah, but with my business, I didn't have to sell, right? The business just worked. Now, we're not talking about flash in the pan businesses. We're not talking about businesses, that succeed for a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. We're talking about businesses that will succeed for the long run. And you want to build something, you want to build your business from the ground up in that way. Okay. You want to build it like something, I want it to be here 10 years from now. I want it to be here 20 years from now. I want to build it right. I want to build it in such a way that I can sell it. I want to build it right. So you may be, say somebody starts a private practice and they start in a really underserved area. So they're the only specialist there. Will they have to do a lot of selling? Probably not. They'll do some, but probably not, right? The question is, are you building a business that can survive if the hospital came and put another specialist in your area? Because you can go from 60 to 0, right? Now, not 0 to 60. You can go from 60 to 0 really quick if that's what you do, right? And so you want to build a business that will survive in the good times and survive in the bad times, or quote unquote bad times, right? So if there's a pandemic with what you've built, will it work? If there's a recession with what you've built, will it work? If there's a great resignation with what you've built, will it work? Because there will be times that are really, really good and you can get away with, being lazy as an entrepreneur and violating the strategy and violating principles. But the thing is, when those other times come, when the downtime comes, when the shrinking economy comes, will it still survive the test of time? Okay, so we don't want to build businesses that all it takes is one little shaking and it's gone. We want to build businesses that will survive. Okay, so you don't get to choose strategy. You don't get to choose. It comes with the territory. I want to be an entrepreneur. Boom. These are the strategies. Okay. All right. So in the EntreMD Business School, we drill down on those, right? Like, so we have the revenue generation framework, like end to end. How do I take someone from they don't know about me to all the way to where they brought me so much business and things like that? It's end to end. Why do we drill down on that? Because it's the mastery of that puts you in a position where you have what we call revenue confidence. Like, I know how to create revenue in my business. I know how to attract clients in my business. I know how to serve them in such a way that, they keep coming back. Okay. So that's number one. So that's number two. Number three is ignorance of numbers. Ignorance of numbers. I almost call this magical thinking, right? Like, oh yeah, I'm going to buy this building for my business. And we don't really have the details. We don't know how much it will cost. We don't know how much the mortgage will be. We don't know if our business can handle that, right? We just like, yeah, because it will be good. I am building this, private practice coming up a lot, but I'm building this private practice. But my patients, I want them to have access to a nutritionist, and I want them to have access to a mental health care professional. I want them to have access to this. I'm going to hire all these people. I'm going to hire all of them. But you don't even have 2 patients. But this will be good for them, right? And so there's no concept of what are the numbers, right? Like, how many patients would I need to see to make payroll? And sometimes, unfortunately, we have these huge loans that we take out, right? So it seems like all is well because we're blowing through money that we quote unquote didn't work for, right? You have to understand your numbers. You have to understand your profit margin. You have to understand how many clients you have to break even. You have to understand, like, you have to know the numbers. Business is an economic game. It's a numbers game, right? Now, it's not all about the numbers. Of course, people come before numbers, but it's like people, number one, and numbers, number two. Like, it's right next to people. Okay, so you want to know what those numbers are. What are my startup costs? What is my profit margin? One of the mistakes I see a lot of is a massive overhead in the beginning. And I'm like, why don't we grow the overhead as we grow the business? Why don't we start off as lean as possible, right? But you have to understand the numbers. You have to understand how it plays out. Sometimes when you put the numbers on paper, your decision becomes obvious, right? It means rather than hire this person right now, I need to hire them in 2 months. Rather than bring on this new big expense in my business, why don't we make that a 6-month project and we're going to do 1, 2, 3 to generate the revenue to cover that? Like, it's what will make you think strategically. You have to know your numbers. In the medical world, if we're going to have somebody do a treatment that is, especially if it's life-changing, they're going to do chemo and things like that. And even in the minor things, like if you're going to do a spinal tap, there is this thing you do. You want the patient to give you informed consent. You want them to give you consent. You want them to make an informed decision, right? Okay. In the same way, in entrepreneurship, that's the same thing, right? But you're not going over the risk and the benefit and all of those kind of things and what the procedure will entail. What you're going through is all the numbers. This is how much we're bringing in. This is how much is going out. This is what the projection is. This is what our profit margin is. This is what our overhead looks like. This is how long it will take us to get to even and we start making a profit. This is the number of clients I need to hit my revenue goal. We must know the numbers. We must know the numbers. The number one reason businesses go out of business is cash flow, right? And so if cash flow is the thing, we must understand cash flow. We must understand numbers. We must know all those things. Okay, so that's number 3. Number four is ignorance of the math of business. So it's very closely linked to number 3, but I'll tell you what I mean by this. I have a whole podcast episode on it. You can pull it up. Is the math of business. That's what it's called. And it's very simple, but it is such a game changer. Okay, there are 2 primary business models. Okay, 2 primary business models. One model is high ticket, low volume. The other one is low ticket, high volume. So I'll give you examples. So say you have a program and your program is a $20,000 program that is high ticket. And it means that you have the luxury of having low volume. Okay, you can decide I want to serve everybody. I want to have 100 clients. Right? That's the number that I want to have for the entire year, and I'm good. Okay. Now I want you to think about it. If you have 100 clients, that's a $2 million business. Sorry, 100 people. Okay. You may say, you know what? I'm a coach. I just want to do one-on-one coaching. I just want to have 10 clients. I'm going to charge them 20 each. That's 200,000. You're like, that's what I want. That's all I want. Okay. Because I want to spend all this quality time with them. I want to do all of this. Now, if you look at that, right? That's high ticket, low volume. Does it work? It works. The math works. Okay, the math is mathing. Okay. Now, if it's a low ticket thing, right? Say I have a product or I have a course or I have something, and I'm just picking this number because it's easy to do the math, and it's $100. With $100, right, you have to understand that you're going to have volume if you want to hit your revenue goals. Okay, because if you have 100 clients for $100 product, do the math. That's 10 grand, right? So the question is that what you want? Right? Probably not. Okay. If you have 1,000, that's 100 grand. If you have 10,000, that's 1 million. Okay. Now, I'm saying all of that to say this. A lot of times people tell me, I just want to spend a lot of time with my people and I don't have the time. So I don't want to have a lot of clients and all of this, but I want to price what I do at $100 or $49 or whatever. I'm like, you can't eat your cake and have it, right? Like that's not how it works. You're high ticket, low volume, low ticket, high volume. You only get to pick one of those two, one of those two variables. So if you say, you know what, my core value is aligned with working with a few people, spending all the time with them and all of that. So you're saying, I want to be low volume. Then you don't get to pick the second variable. It's fixed. Okay. So if you want low volume, it means you're high ticket. Okay. And then if you're like, no, I want something that's $100. I want, everybody to be able to afford it, all that. Well, understand that if you say low volume, low ticket, you're going to decide to let everybody work with you. You're going to go for high volume, right? If you want a profitable business. Okay. So you must respect the business of math. You cannot choose. It is one variable and one fixed. Okay. You cannot make both of them variables. They can't both be variables. Okay. So you're going to pick, what do I want? Do I want high ticket? That means I get to do low volume, right? I probably have to do low volume. Or do I want low ticket? Then I have to do high volume. Okay. All right. So don't make it two variables. You can't have two variables in the equation. One is variable, one is fixed. Okay. But it's a mistake I see all the time. And again, if you go back to number 3 and you understand the numbers, you can crunch the numbers. If I'm saying this is what I want to price it at, and I'm claiming that this is what my revenue goal is, how many people do I need to see to pull it off? Right? If I say, no, I only want to serve 10 people, but this is my revenue goal, how much do I need to charge to pull it off? Do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So the math has to math. Okay. That's the business of math. Finally, and I think this is even one of the most important ones, is the ignorance of the requirement for metamorphosis. The version of you that exists right now is not the version of you that's going to create the results you want to see. The version of you that exists now has created the results that you see now. That's just the way it is. And for every time you choose to up level, right, you are going to need to change. It's an intentional thing. If you think about the way the world works, weed will grow by default. Okay. You get a garden, you don't do anything there, weed will grow by default. And so for you becoming, you acquiring vices, or you not growing and, maybe even getting worse, that can happen by default. But if you're going to see a garden and you have all these beautiful plants, the flowers and all of those things, when you look at that garden, somebody did the work here. You don't go like, wow, I wonder how that just grew out of nowhere. No, someone did the work. In the same way, if you're going to become the kind of entrepreneur, the kind of CEO that runs the kind of business you are dreaming of, you're going to do that intentionally. You're going to set a goal. This is what I do. I'll give you an example. I said, okay, I want to build a multiple 7-figure business. What version of me do I have to become to pull that off? And then I pay the price to become that version of me. Do you see what I mean? And then once I do that, then I start thinking like that kind of person. I start acting like that kind of person. I start getting those kind of results. There's the internal work that needs to happen first. And so metamorphosis, it's required. And I'll tell you this because this is my story, and you'll say if it resonates with you or not. I didn't realize how much I fought to be the version of me, to stay the same version, right? Like when thoughts would come, I fight the thoughts. This was happening in the background. Like it's not something I was aware of, but I'm fighting thoughts. I'm like, yeah, I don't do stuff like that, and all of that. And one day, I think I've talked about this on the podcast. I was driving to church, and this thought just came to me. If you produce on the outside who you are on the inside, if there's a match up there, if that is true, then if you truly want things to change, your business to be better, right? You to be better at leading your staff, you producing better results and all of that, doesn't that mean that your like the way you see yourself, the way you think, like you need to change? And I thought about it. I was like, yeah. And then so then it was like, so why do you fight for your current thoughts? Like you should constantly be looking for how to upgrade the way you think, up level the way you think, up level all of that, right? Like it's something you should fight for daily, knowing that the more I up level my thoughts, the more I up level the way I reason, the more I up level the way I see myself, the more everything else on the outside changes. right? And so that took me on. That was the first time I became aware of how much by default I just fight to keep my thoughts the same. If somebody told me I was doing that, I'd be like, of course not. I'm always trying to get better. No, like new thoughts. The first thing is, yeah, we don't do like, oh, those people, like, all of those things. I started fighting every single day to up level the way I think, right? Knowing that the ripple effect shows up everywhere. So as an entrepreneur, metamorphosis is required. The way you think now has produced the results you have now. The only way to have new results is to change the way you think, right? So these are 5 things that I pulled up, and these are things that I've noticed. Like what the metamorphosis, so many people that just go, they open a business. Like, okay, I'm a coach, or I'm a private practice owner, I'm a paid speaker, and things like that. But they haven't made any journeys on the inside. They just made a decision, like, hey, this is what I'm going to do, and I'm going to take all the old skills, all the old ways of thinking, all of that, and bring it into this new entity. I cannot tell you how that does not work. You know what I mean? It just doesn't work. People that decide, oh, this is my year, I'm going to do multiple 7 figures, but their operating system is the operating system of a multiple 6-figure business owner, right? Which creates nothing but, heartache, burnout, frustration, because you have to evolve. You really do have to evolve. And so I share this with you because I really hope that you would look at this and you're like, oh, look at all this opportunity to switch some things up and set myself up to be that person who's building a business that will thrive in the good times and the bad times, and continue to crush the milestones that I have, continue to serve my clients at the absolute highest level, become a category of 1 in my industry, become a trailblazer in my industry, because you can, right? You just need to know. Okay. All right. So I want you to embrace these 5 things. I want you to do a little audit, like come to Jesus version, like you're honest with yourself. Okay. And this piece is not for everybody, right? But if you truly are committed, like I am going to get this stuff done, please hear me when I say this, okay? I want you, even if you're like, I'm not entirely sure, I want you to book a call, okay? I want you to book a call with one of our business strategists to see if the EntreMD Business School is a good fit for you. And the reason why I say that is because the EntreMD Business School is designed to help you avoid these pitfalls. We will talk to you about hard work, okay? We talk about it. We will talk to you about the strategy all day, every day. We're not into fads. We're not into new, exciting, shiny things. We are into the timeless strategies that always work, okay? We will always hold you accountable to your numbers. In fact, in the EntreMD Business School, we chose, starting 2023, we chose to live 90 days at a time. So we have our 90-day sprint plan. These are my top 3 goals. One of them must be revenue. Okay, so these are my top 3 goals. So let's reverse engineer that. What does that mean? What do I need to do? Whose help do I need? Like we reverse engineer it and go after that. So we're working hard. We're working hard strategically. We're doing it in community. So it's not, it's not painful, because once you start embracing it, it's not painful. Okay. We talk about the math of business all the time. Okay. And then it is a place where you will experience metamorphosis. People saying, I don't recognize myself, is a normal saying in the EntreMD Business School, where people go from, I don't think I can do a business, to now I've crossed the 6-figure mark. And we have people who've, crossed the 7-figure, crossed the multiple 7, and all kinds of things are happening in there. There is a place for you. You don't have to do this by yourself. You don't have to struggle through this. You can increase your odds of thriving as a physician entrepreneur. And you get to see all these entrepreneurs who are literal vision boards, right? Like they are evidence of what is possible. In fact, there was a doctor in the school who wrote a post about some wins that she created. And it was so amazing because the inspiration for those 2 wins were 2 different doctors in the EntreMD Business School. It didn't even have anything to do with me. We call it the EBS Commonwealth, right? The Commonwealth is the wealth of all the combined experiences and wisdom and connections and all of that of the doctors in the group. And so there's a place for you. Okay. So EntreMD.com/call, EntreMD.com/call. Go fill out that little intake, get your call scheduled, and let's help you make a decision. Nobody's going to manipulate you or put you under pressure under the call, because we are committed to bringing doctors who should be in the business school to the business school. The people it's a fit for, the people we're most equipped to serve. Okay, we don't want to bring you in if we're not equipped to help you reach the goals that you want to achieve. So there's no pressure. There's no manipulation. Okay, but I want to invite you to go schedule that call. I want you to get to that point where you're like, absolutely, I should be in the business school. I'm going to be there. Or absolutely not. I just love the podcast. I love the Facebook community. I love the books Dr. Una writes. I even refer people to her. I love what she does, but the school is not for me. Okay. Do you see what I mean? We just want to help you to get to a decision. There's no pressure. So EntreMD.com/call. Now, I'm going to leave you by telling you what I say in the EntreMD Business School every evening, every Wednesday evening when we do our live sessions. As physicians in this community, we are building the most innovative, most impactful, and most profitable businesses. That's what we're doing. I want you to start thinking about yourself that way. Yes, there's a narrative about entrepreneurship being hard and all of those things, but you can thrive. You've defied bigger odds before. Okay, so is it hard work? Yes. Is it rewarding work? Yes. Is it hard work that sets you up, like you build your business in such a way that it gives you your time and it gives you financial freedom? I mean, like, it is 1,000% worth it. So I invite you to embrace it all. I invite you to keep that picture top of mind, and I cannot wait to celebrate all your successes. Share this episode with another doctor that will thank you forever, and I'll see you on our next episode of the EntreMD podcast. Hey, if you love listening to the EntreMD podcast, I want to invite you to join EntreMD On Demand. It is my signature subscription program that gives you access to a library of business courses designed to help you do one thing as a physician entrepreneur, and that is to thrive. Just head out to EntreMD.com/on demand, and I'd love to have you join us. See you on the inside.